So we've created all the renders of this product animation masterclass, and now we are going to edit everything together. If you've never used DaVinci Resolve before, no problem, I'm going to guide you through every step. And if you haven't even downloaded it, go ahead and do that, it's completely free. If you are using Premiere Pro, then translate this video to your own video editor. You'll figure it out. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is what DaVinci Resolve looks like when you open it up. I've blurred some things out to protect my client's integrity, but we're going to press on Untitled Project, and then it will open up this workspace right here. It's the cut page. We don't work in the cut page. We are going to the edit page straight away because this is where we're going to do the bulk of the work. I'm going to try and make this as beginner friendly as possible. If you've never used DaVinci Resolve before, it's free. You can go ahead and download it on their website, the Blackmagic Design website, and we can edit our product animation in here entirely for free, and it's going to be awesome. So first, we're going into our product animation folder right over here, Expansion H, Product Commercial Free Course, then the Product Final Animations. And then I'm going to take this, press Ctrl A because it's all PNGs, just like we discussed in the previous videos. And I'm going to drag it in like this. And now we have our video right over here. Now it's quite slow and we are going to solve that. I'm actually going to work with an MP4, but if you're actually doing client work, you might not want to work with an MP4 because each time you render something in MP4, the quality gets worse. So you want to keep that to a minimum. So there are a lot of images and each of them have a pretty large file size. So DaVinci Resolve has some trouble playing this in your timeline. Now, if you do want to work with PNGs, what you can do is you can click on Playback, Timeline Proxy Resolution, and set it to quarter. This will reduce the quality to 1/4 of what we've actually rendered, and now it will play back sort of fine. And if it's still not working for you, you can go over to the Playback, Render Cache, and set it to Smart. And usually you get a blue line over here which shows you how much of the video is rendered in the cache. It's not showing up right now, it's trying to be funny, but we're not going to be impressed by it. Just use it if you want to render this into a cache. This is what DaVinci Resolve looks like. We've got our workspaces over here. This is the editing tab, the fusion tab, the color grading tab, the sound tab, and we are not going to use any of these except for the editing tab and the color grading tab and maybe the fusion tab for one specific render later. Over here we've got our toolbox, and there you have video transitions, audio transitions, titles, generators, all that good stuff. Here is our media timeline, which means that everything we drag into here, it will also show up over here. You can also drag everything in here, and then you can drag it from there to there. And this is the inspector, and here you can scale things up and move the position, etc. We're going to work with that in a minute, but first we are going to render this out as an MP4 because I want this tutorial to be pretty fast and not having to wait for a cache bake each time that I want to have an animation shown to you guys. So how are we going to do that? We are going to add every single render that we've got into this timeline. So we've got the can swipe transition. Going to drag it in there. We've got the pop-in animation, going to drag it in there. And you can do this for yourself. I'm just going to skip ahead. I think you get the gist. You just go into your folder, you grab all the images you have and drag it in here. Very easy, and I'll see you in a bit. So I've got everything lined up right here. These are all the renders that we've made throughout this course. And I'm going to drag the music to the side because I do not want it to be a part of my MP4. And I'm going to go with my timeline all the way over here. Just drag this red bar, set it to the side, press on I to set this in point. And then over here we can press O and it will set an out point. Now I'm going to press Ctrl S, and this is going to be the masterclass editing. Now I'm heading over to this rocket icon right here. You'll find it next to the music icon. And when you press on the rocket icon, you can export your video. And that is what we are going to do. So right over here, I'm going to call it MP4 product animation. Just going to copy that, then on browse, going into my folder, right over here, going to make a new folder, give it this same name and save. And right over here, instead of QuickTime, you want to select MP4. And that is basically it. So it's set to single clip, 24 frames per second, does that automatically. We've got it to MP4, and now I'm going to press on Add to Render Queue. Render all. Once again, you do not have to do this step. You can work with the PNGs and it will actually be a better quality in the final. But I'm just going to do it on an MP4 because it's way faster for my machine and I can show you clearly what is going on without having to wait each minute. Alright, so the render is done and I'm going to delete all of this except for this swipe transition that we've made. And why am I not going to delete this? Well, MP4 doesn't have a transparent background, so this will just be black and we do not want this. Right now, if we place this over our other render, you can see it is actually transparent right over there. And it's very slow, so I'm going to delete all of these images and I'm going to bring in my MP4. And now when we play this back, it's actually very smooth and it goes a lot faster. Now all we have to do is make sure that this looks cool on the music. We're going to add some zoom effects. We're going to make some other cool effects as well. And I'm going to try to give you some of these editing principles that will help you in the future. So it's not simply going to be a cutting along tutorial and we're going to edit this, make a cut here, make a cut there. I'm going to explain the thought process behind editing this entire piece. So I'm heading over to YouTube. You might have heard about it. So I'm going to type in vlog, fashion, anime, children of light. And then right here we get a video by Infraction, and this is the one that we need. So I'm going to copy this link and I'm heading over to this website, which is called ytmp3.nu. And you can also just type YouTube to mp3 and then you will find it right over here. But if you've got another one that works, no problem, just make sure you're not clicking on a virus. Right here, ytmp3, and you can paste your link in this bar, convert it, and then you can download it. So do mind, you cannot just use this music in a product commercial that you're going to run ads with on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. So look in their description and always make sure that it is commercially free. And if it's not, don't use it for a product commercial. I'm going to use this for YouTube and I am allowed to do that because it is 100% no copyright royalty free. But if you want to use it in commercial project, you must be subscribed to inaudio.org. So make sure that whenever you're using music in your editing process, that it has the right license. Either way, I'm just going to use this one for my product commercial because I'm only going to drop it on YouTube. I mean, it's the blender and the tutorial drink. I haven't made an actual drink, guys. And now I'm going to add the correct music. So here we are back in DaVinci Resolve and we've got our music and you might be able to hear it through the microphone. It starts kind of slow, you get some piano coming in. And this, of course, is not interesting for our product commercial. So I'm going right over here. That's what we want. That's what we want. We want to have a beat. Because if you have a beat, you have something to edit to. So I'm going to pick a moment right here. Just something like that. Alright, so I'm going to bring this over here. I'm going to make sure that it kind of looks alright with the render we've got. No, it's too slow, so I'm going to make it shorter. Right over here. Alright, cool. So I'm in my editing program. We are going to use the arrow keys in order to find our black spot right here. And I'm going to click on B to have our cutting mechanism and we're going to cut this away. So right now I'm moving over here and take all of this out. And right now there shouldn't be any black frame, so I missed one. It's right over here. And we can place our pop-in animation right next to our slide-in animation. And of course it's a giant MP4, so we have to cut everything by hand. And now we still have our PNG swipe transition, and I'm going to place it right over here and make sure that it looks correct. So I'm going to use this one, the arrow to the left, to move a frame. And I do not want to see the shot change over here. And now the transition is correct. Let's see. I think this beat can be a little bit faster, so I'm going to drag this to the side. Alright, cool. And now I actually want to have a zoom in effect on this can. So what I'm going to do is I'm heading over into our toolbox, and right here you can press adjustment clip or just type adjustment clip. And if you're on any other place than the toolbox, you will not find it. So we're going to drag the adjustment clip into our timeline, and the beat starts over here. So I'm going to make it shorter on both sides like this, and I want it to be zoomed in until the end of the animation, and I'm going to drag our can transition to the top. Now drag this back down. If you hold shift, it will stay in place instead of move around too much. So on the adjustment clip, I'm heading into the inspector right over here, and we can press on zoom, and these are the keyframes. And I'm going to make one for the position as well. So right over here, we want it to zoom in on the beat. So maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away these keyframes, make it just a little bit longer, and right over here place my keyframes. And right here we want it to be zoomed in. So exactly when the beat happens, it should be zoomed in. And I'm actually not going to use the position. There you go. Yeah, so then when the zoom in ends, the can is also back in its place and it's right on the ground. And that's why I'm going for this type, where on the beat something of action happens. Already looks a lot better than what we had before, so consider this. Without the swipe transition and the adjustment layer, it looks like this. I mean, it's not bad because the renders are pretty cool, but just a little bit more. Cool, cool, cool. So this is actually the first part done. We've got our zoom in animation, and actually one little touch that we can add is another adjustment clip. So I'm going to drag an adjustment clip right over here, press B, cut away this side, and by pressing on the backspace key, don't press on delete, because if you press on delete, a lot of other clips will be moved as well. Press on backspace, and right here we have the adjustment clip. Going to search for zoom blur. And zoom blur is not in the toolbox because it's in the open effects. So this is just something that you have to know, and it comes with time and experience. But this is in the open effects, which means that it comes from a Fusion type of plate. So zoom blur, I'm going to drag it right over here, and that makes sure that it has this zoom in effect. So I'm going to make it very extreme for you. And this is what it looks like. You can also do it the other way around. And then it looks like this. So I'm going to place it on 0, add a keyframe on the beginning. Then on this button right here, you can click. You can see where the keyframes are located for our other adjustment clip. So what I want to do at the moment it starts moving, so one frame into it, I want this to be stronger because we have movement and we did not render actual motion blur in Blender for this move. So I'm going to add it manually. So now we have that right over there. Then one frame before it stops, I'm going to press the keyframe button once more, and then on the frame that it lands, I'm going to set it to 0. Let's see what that looks like. Gives it some energy. I think it's a bit too much. So I'm going to decrease the strength of this. So it's 560. Maybe we can set it to something lower, like 260. And right over here, 260, 0.26. And the rest is fine. And there you go. It's a lot more subtle. And you can go for whatever effect you like. So if you do want it to be extreme, just increase the value, no problem, man. So bam. All right, so right now we have got the scale pop in. And then the camera moves up, and it moves upward in the next scene as well. Like that. And one thing that I find that I do not like is that it becomes really gray. And the reason for it is that we did not place extra lighting on our backdrop when we made this move. But it's not a problem because we can fix it either way. So we've got our solid. In the toolbox, you get a solid color. So I'm going to drag this on here and make it a whole lot smaller. Take this away, press backspace. I'm going to change the color in the inspector, and it's going to be white. So right over here, I'm going to view when all my cans are removed. And that is over here. So over here, I want this solid color to start, and the animations start on this frame. So I'm going to head in one frame before that, drag out our solid color, and make sure that it ends right over there. Then I'm going to drag on this little white bar, which is an opacity. So I'll show you what that means. It's even better to see it right over here. So it is becoming wider through time. So it's basically like keyframing the opacity. Either way, I'm going to place that over there, make it slightly like this. And I think it should be a bit more aggressive. And it could be one frame longer. As it's coming in, and then here it should fade out. and now it's way too heavy. And the reason for it is that this white is not the same as this white. But I'm going to leave it like this for now because we are going to color grade all of these shots. It will slow down your computer because color grades is more computation power, which simply means that we're going to do it at the end. So first get the animation right, get the editing in place, and then do the color grading. And you will not have any struggles with playing this back. So I'm just going to keep it like that. And this render is not the render we needed to come after this one, because we specifically made this last frame the first frame of our next animation, which is the camera pendulum animation. So now we got the camera pendulum swing animation, and we have to cut these out by hand because we turned it into an MP4 and now they're all jumbled up. Check. So this is our black animation, and by the way, you can press on this link button and then it will unlink the sound from the video. And I'm just going to delete all the soundless parts of this MP4 because we do not need it. And you can also place these behind each other if you think that's cool. So look at this. I'm not a fan. I like the original idea better, so I'm just going to do that. I'm going to cut everything up, so I'll see you in a bit. All right, so we have all our colors right here, and I'm going to place the black one right after this animation, and it lines up. So now I'm going to drag all of these animations on top of each other, and I first want it to become blue, then I want it to become green, then I want it to become, or actually I want it to become green, then orange, and then pink. And pink is going to be the last one. Now we've got them all placed on top of each other, and the name of the game is we just simply have to make them all decrease their length proportionally. So if we hear the hi-hats, listen up. If you can hear that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I'm going to decrease this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I'm going to decrease this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Decrease this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Decrease this. And now it isn't transitioning smoothly because we haven't added the like opacity, but we can do that. Let's see what it looks like for now, just to get the gist of it. The animation needs to come in. I'm just going to set it to plus 0002. And I'm going to do the same for this one, same for this one, same for this one. Alright, looks very cool. So now we can add our reveal animation and set it right afterwards. This is the moment the beat drops, which is what I wanted to tell you, is when I'm working on this, I made this render first. I render it out, and then I place it right over here. Alright, looks good. The beat starts over here. Is there perhaps something we can do? Can we increase the length? No, that wouldn't look good. Okay, so I gotta make another shot and make sure it transitions smoothly, because there's not a beat right here, and you can cut on the beat and it really doesn't matter because it is expected to see change when the beat changes as well. And that's what we have right over here. So as you can see, the moment that the pendulum swing, and it goes on the action, and on the action we cut as well, and there's more movement going on. So that is good. Then we have some liquid animations. Let's see, I've got this one. And it's all very slow because it's set to 60 FPS, and I'm going to show you how to speed ramp this. All right, so we've got that one, and we've got this one. Cool. So first of all, where is another beat drop? Because all right, so I don't like this part. It's like the end of the song part. And I actually want the song to loop because as you saw in the product animation, I do a zoom in effect in one of the letters and then it changes all over again. So it's like the white of the letters becomes the new white background on which all these animations happen. I want the music to at least somewhat align for people to think it is looped. So it doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to be good enough. So let's see, right over here, I'm going to cut this. So we've got the which is our beginning. So if we add it right over here, so if we remove this all the way over here, all right, pretty good. We can change this. I think it can be slightly better. Yeah. So that's it. So it's not perfect because we cut the beat literally in half and that doesn't sound good at all, but it is a way to create a loop, and even though it is forced, it does make the animation better and maybe makes people want to watch the ad for longer. Now you can spend a lot more time on this. I'm just taking the first part of the song basically and working with it. And I didn't spend a lot of time doing the sound design. So first of all, we've got something that loops now, and that is what we want. So this is going to be the duration of our entire animation. And we already know that now. So I'm heading over to this side. And by the way, if it's not clicking for you on this part, you have a little magnet right here. And right now it's pretty free. But if you have the magnet, it will snap to this part automatically, kind of like the snap tool in Blender as well. So I'm going to place this right over there. Press on my left arrow key and then press O for out point. For some reason, when you're standing on the last frame and you press O, it places it one frame later. And this is just the DaVinci Resolve thing, but you will get one black frame and it will be really noticeable when you render the final animation. So click on the final part, one frame back, and then click on O. And now you can see that this is aligned with this and it is totally correct. So liquid animations. And of course, this is way longer. Actually, just one of those is already enough to cover the entirety of this. So we want to do some speed ramping. So right here we've got this. I think it looks pretty cool. But I'm going to do the last part first. And on this beat, we want the slow motion to happen. So basically what's going on, maybe we can drag this out until it is entirely white. And then Control R, and this will bring up your speed ramping controls. So right over here you can add a speed point, and now you've got these little handles that you can manipulate, and you will see the percentage of the speed change. So I'm going to change this to around 233, 260, something like that. We've done it in 260 FPS, which means that we can speed up 2.5 times without loss of quality, and we have enough frames for that. So, all right. So it's going very fast. Maybe we can emphasize it a bit more. Cool. And now when we drag the speed point exactly on this beat, bam! See what I mean? And now the slow motion is happening exactly on the beat, and that is what we want. Cool. Cut this off. This is the entire end clip. Looks cool. And now we have to use those other two renders to fill up the rest. So right over here. And let's see what we can do with this. First I'm going to do this one. And I also want to speed ramp it. So let's see, this can be fast. And then we slow it down over here. Control R, add a speed point, make this 260%. Cool. Just going to cut it somewhere random for now. Let's see. So we've got it to 250 right now. Just going to decrease the length. All right, so listen up. You've got a hi-hat over there. And if you can hear that, that is where we're going to cut. Right over there. So if you think this animation is on the wrong position, you do not have to redo your entire retime controls. You can just take the bottom part of this and then change the location of it. So maybe something like this. And then one frame back, I'm going to delete all of this. And then right here, I'm just going to pick a smooth position for this one. Maybe starting from over here to over there. Something like that. Control R. Change speed. Actually, all the way until here should be sped up. So we're going to add a speed point and increase it all the way over there. Ooh, pretty cool actually when it's that hard. Looks kind of cool. Maybe it's a bit too much. It's 1400%. And over here there's another snare. And that's basically the way that I do it. So that is the Control R part. We have actually got our entire product animation. So let's have a look right now and see whether there's something that we want to change. Alright, so first of all, I'm just going to cut it right there. We've got our adjustment clip and our zoom clip right over here. And there is a snare. You can hear it. So I'm going to turn this solid up. I'm going to take the adjustment clip, bring it right over here, so that on the end of this, so when the snare begins, it's zoomed in. Cool. Looks cool. So before we head on over in the color grading tab, I noticed that I made a mistake. Namely that I took my adjustment clips, but I didn't actually copy them. So I'm going to select both of them, hold Alt and bring them over to this side and make sure that they are once again aligned to this beat drop. And that's right over here. So cool. So yeah, that's the way you can copy things. You just hold Alt and drag it and then you have your extra clips. So this is what we've got thus far. So right now I'm heading over into the color tab. I'm going to select this clip, click on this icon right here. It's a painter's palette. And right now I think this is a bit too non-contrasty. So I'm going to make a new node, Alt S, and this will be a new node. So this kind of works the same as in Blender. It's just a node network. And right here we've got our effects. These are the nodes. You want to have this clicked. And these are our clips. I'm going to unclick it because I like more space so we can zoom in. And right here we have our lift, gamma, gain, etc. I've got a free course on compositing where this is explained in depth, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. So first of all, Alt S. So over here we have our HDR sliders and I want to change the exposure. So there's actually two ways to change the exposure, or actually multiple ways, but first of all you got the slider right here and you can do this and it kind of works like a brightness node. I'm not going to explain that right now. And right here we've got our exponential and this will make sure that the exposure is a lot more natural instead of just some wide mathematical equation going over the entire image. So I'm going to increase this exposure slider and let's see what that did for us. So this was pretty dark at first and now it's pretty lightened up. I'm going to set it to 0.3 and now I like the way that this white looks. And now I'm going to add some contrast and maybe we decrease the global, by the way, because we're going to add contrast. So I'm going to set it to 0.2 and it's a bit brighter. Then we're going over into this tab and right here we have contrast. Going to increase it ever so slightly and then the pivot can be turned back or forward depending on your preference. I like to turn it a little bit back so it brings back some of our highlights. And if we look at what we've done by pressing Shift D, you can already see this was pretty bland and now it's a lot more bright and visually interesting to look at. One thing we can do, and maybe I'm not going to actually do this, but let's see what it does for us. I'm heading over into this tab and I'm going to increase the red output, the green output and the blue output. And now it is very saturated. So in the output gain, so over here you've got all of these boxes. You can select this one and the gain you can decrease it in order to get a value that you like. And I think I like 0.3, so it's a little bit more popping into the eye, but not that much so that it drags from the animation. So this looks pretty good, and I'm not going to do anything else with it. What you could do is you can Alt-S, add a film grain to give it one of those camera effects that you may like. I'm not going to do that, just going to increase the strength for now so you can see what it does. So it increases the grain on your footage to make it seem real. Not going to do that, I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to keep this clean and 3D. So this one is done. I actually don't want to do all the same work for this one again. So I'm heading over into the color tab, clicking on clips, and then right here you can see that we've got it selected. And this one is the one that we already graded. That is shown by the rainbow color around this 0, 1. So I'm going to press middle mouse button on this, and now it applies the same color grade on this render as well. And I think it looks fine. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. You can do that. You can tweak some things if you'd like. And right over here, I'm heading over into the next one. Do not select the adjustment clips, because if you add an adjustment clip and add another color grade on it, it will double it. So don't do that. Make sure that you've got the actual render selected. I'm going to click on this one, and now it has applied our color grade. I'm going to click on this one, it has applied our color grade, and we can move forward like this. I'm going to click on this one, and this is very green. So I do not like that, and I'm heading over to this side, Alt-S, make a new node, and right over here we've got our curves. So I'm going to this side, and it's called Hue versus Saturation. And now I'm going to select this color. You can select it on the screen by pressing and holding and get a range of that color. But we can also see that the color green is the most prevalent in our color setup. And right now, when I drag this downwards, it becomes less saturated. So let's see what it did for us. So it's very green over here. And I think, it looks nauseating, but now it's a bit more subtle. It can actually be a little bit more. Yeah, something like this. Maybe we can extend this a little bit more. Pretty good. And what we can also do is go to the Hue versus Luma and click on this color green, and then turn this down or upwards in order to make it brighter or darker. And I'm just going to subtly make it something like this. So this is the before, this is the after, and you can press Ctrl D on any node to turn it off and turn it back on. So over here it was pretty nauseating green, and now we've got something a lot more natural looking. So I'm going to select this orange color and then click on the blue color setup, because I do not want to take out any greens out of this orange color. That wouldn't make any sense. And I think it could be a little bit more orange. So I'm going to add another node, and on this node we can, let's go to the saturation, or maybe we can change the color. So right over here I can select all the reds, and now I can change the color and make it a little bit more, yeah, orangey. I could make it purple, blue, or whatever. I'm going to make it a bit more orange, and I also want to go to the Hue versus Luma, select the red, make it a tad bit brighter. I'm not entirely sure about the color yet though, so maybe we can go over into the saturation, select the reds, make it a little bit more saturated, and now it's pretty cool orange. So let's see what we've done. This is what it looked like before, this is what it looks like now. And I think that looks a lot better, it's a lot more orange. So if you're having trouble with that, you can always change things in DaVinci Resolve, which is a nice trick. So now that you've got that in your toolbox, we can color grade the other can, which is over here. I'm going to select the blue one, and this is fine for my taste. And then we've got our swipe transition. I'm going to select this very same color grade. I'm not going to do anything fancy, just going to select it. And right here we can select it as well. It looks pretty decent. Going over here, select it as well. Looks pretty decent. Select it. Select it. All right. So if you want to change the color of the fluid, you can do that. So you can go over here, and right now we can see the Hue versus Hue, and we want to change the orange. I'm going to select that, and it should be a broader range, a whole lot broader. And you can change the color of your liquid simulation. So if you rendered it out in orange, no problem, you can make it blue. It's not really an issue. So it might cause some unnatural artifacting. So right over here, there's a little bit of orange, and we don't want to have that. So you have to play around with the sliders to remove some of that, and maybe pick a color that really handles it well. So this blue color is doing pretty fine. You can change the color of your liquid simulation if you want to do that, and you were not happy with your result at first. But I am happy with my result, so I'm going to delete this, and it's orange, and it's just going to stay orange. And let's see what we've got now. Alright, so the final effect is going to be the zoom in into one of the letters. And actually, if you did this in Blender, it's going to be a lot more higher quality because we actually move the camera in space. But I'm not going to do that. I think this method is way easier and also delivers a pretty decent result. So I'm heading over into this one. I'm going to type Control R to remove our retime. And right here we have our fusion composition. So I'm going to duplicate this clip first of all. So hold Alt, drag it upwards. So now we have something extra to work with in case we mess it up. So here we have our fusion clip. We've got the media in. And now I want to add a DVE. A DVE is kind of like a transform node with some extra properties. So we can use the Z move, which is right over here, and make sure that it can come closer into the camera. And lo and behold, what do we have? It goes right into the D, which is what we want. What I'm going to do is I am going to start this animation, preferably on a place where the beat drops. So I think right over here. So there's a bass tone right there, as you can see, maybe one frame, so like this. Then I'm going into the DVE and it's located at that exact frame. Going to press on the keyframe for the Z move. Then I'm going to the last keyframe and make sure that it's all the way in, like so. And now it's heading into the can. But I think this animation looks a little bit weird and linear, and that is the case because if we open up the spline editor right here and open up our move, you can see it is a linear move, and I do not want that. So I'm going to change this ease and set it to, what was it again? In cubic. Then it's slowly moving in and going over there. So I'm just going to copy this one and place it on the right side to see. Now it's too fast. So we can actually see it's too fast. Should be a lot slower around here. So maybe we can manipulate that. Go over here, called in quadratic. You cannot actually see the final frame going in there. So I'm not a big fan of that. So first of all, going over here, and now it's on 0, but over here I want it to be this far. Maybe we can manipulate it like this. Let's see. Maybe it looks janky. Alright. There you go. And now we actually have the idea as if we're going into that letter. One thing we can do is add another zoom blur. So head back over into the DaVinci Resolve Fusion tab and click on this keyframe right here so that we're starting the zoom blur at the right time. Shift space, zoom, blur. And I want it to start right here. 0.4 looks pretty cool. Going to go one frame backwards, set it to 0. And maybe we want to have it all the way until the end. So it doesn't really matter. Okay, let's go. Maybe we want it to become more extreme over time. So I'm heading over into the zoom blur once again and increase this like so. Cool. Alright. So let's have a look at our animation. I think it can be a little bit more contrasty because you can see the difference between this shot, and it's kind of taking my eye away from it. So this should be a little bit more contrasty. Heading over into the color grading tab, increase the contrast like so, something like this. Cool. So I want to show you one more trick that you can add right over here because there's an extra snare. I'm going to duplicate this one, head over into the color grading tab, Alt-S, add an extra node, and then we can select Edge Detect right over here, and it's on RGBX. It's on RGB edges, and you can change the edge width, and I'm just going to do something like this. Brightness, maybe a little bit more. Gamma, something like this. And now when we go to this frame, 1, 2 frames, maybe it's a bit too short. Maybe a little bit longer. Yeah. That's just a little something you can add. I'm not going to add that because I was doubting it earlier before. And usually when I doubt about something, I just go for the safe road and make sure that it looks slick and smooth and that it's professional enough, even though I like the creative idea of this. Makes it look cool, but you can decide for yourself whatever you want to do with this edit. I hope you learned a lot in this video. We edited the entire product commercial. We have gone through it in quite a tempo. We've color graded everything. We even went into the Fusion tab and made sure that we can zoom into our can. It looks pretty rad, and the animation loops as well. So the key points I want you to take away from this class is that you can cut on the action and on the beat and make sure that the shots have smooth transitions between them. If you are making this, you can speed ramp some of your shots. You have to think that out before, because if you were to speed up 24 frames like we talked about, you cannot fit 24 frames in 5 seconds. It will just look janky. So you need to take that into account. So I hope this free course was useful for you. I enjoyed it a lot. It cost a lot of time to make as well. So click on subscribe, and I'm certain you won't be disappointed in the future with anything I will upload. And you might think this was the end, but I actually got something special for you in the next video, which is going to be the product animation inspiration compilation. And it's going to be a very long video with different product animations lined up so you can be inspired from them. And now that you know how to make them, you can use the inspiration and figure it out for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this free masterclass. I'll see you in the next video. Congratulations! You have finished this entire free course and now know a lot more about modeling, texturing, lighting, animation, liquid simulations, and editing your final product video. You've also learned about the graph editor, video transitions, and thinking about the process of actually making this product. Add this piece to your portfolio. And if you want to become an undeniable force in the 3D space, then I highly recommend watching this video next.